Hey guys, it's Mrs. Haney, and I'm back again with another lesson, this time on percent proportions. Y'all did a little bit of this last year, so this is nothing too terribly new to you guys, but it is important to go over. Now, usually I get a question asking, when am I going to use this in real life? And this is something that you will use in your life, especially when you're older. Budgeting is one of those things that comes to mind when you're trying to, um, you know, like typically when you buy a house or you rent, you want 30% of your income, no more than that, but you want 30% of your income to go towards something, towards housing. Shopping, that's another one where like it'll say, oh, 20% off, and you need to calculate what 20% off is. So I'm actually going to show you that with a word problem later on. If you're interested in statistics, that's another example. Finance, calculating interest, that's a time where you could possibly use a percent proportion. And then health. Some people, they like to evaluate their body fat percentages. So if you're a health nut one day, you might use percent proportions. So with that being said, let's go over this. Now, when we are doing proportions, as you know, generally speaking, there's different formulas. And when it comes to a percent proportion, the biggest takeaway that we use is part over whole. And then on the other side of this proportion, we have percent over 100. Now the word percent, now if we look right here, percent is the number with the percent sign. So when you're looking at any word problem, and let's say that you know that you need to set up a percent proportion, and it's any number that has a percent, you're going to put it up in the top right corner right here. Percent is always out of 100. That's something that I've always told my students in the past, and what I will continue to say. And then part is the number with the word is, which we'll talk more about that. And then whole is the number with the word of. So just to clarify that a little bit more, when we talk about, and I'm going to write this, if you can write is over of, that'll help you a lot with where to put your verbiage. So anyways, is refers to the part or result. So for example, you would say 20 is 25% of 80. So 20 is the part that corresponds to the percent. Okay. And then of is the whole or the total amount. So for example, back to that problem that I just talked about, 80 is the whole amount from which the percentage is taken. So let's take a look at these examples right here. So looking at example 1, it says, what is 7% of 180? So using the formula from up above, part over whole equals percent over 100, I'm going to apply it to this word problem. So it says, what is? So if you see that word is goes on the top, which that's actually the unknown amount. And then 75%, I just discussed that. Anything with a percent is going to go on the top right. And then of 100. So of, just like we wrote up above, goes on the bottom. So what is? That's our unknown, or x. So we're going to write x over of 180. So 180 goes on the bottom. And then equals 75, because that's the percent, over 100, which 100 is technically a total percent amount if we think about it. Now, just like we've been doing these last few days, we're going to cross multiply, and then we will eventually divide. So I'm going to use the space over here, and I'm going to do 180 times 75. So 0 times 5 is 0. 5 times 8 is 40, so I have 0, carry the 4. And then 5 times 1 is 5, plus 4 is 9. So that's first row is 900. I'm going to fill in, or sorry, not fill in. I'm going to scoot over a digit, which means I need to add a 0. And then I'm going to start multiplying. So I have 7 times 0, which is 0. 7 times 8, which is 56. So I have 6, carry that 5. I should have crossed out that 4, but I didn't. Oh, it's gone now. And then I have 7 times 1, which is 7, plus 5 makes it 12. And then I'm going to fill in any empty spaces I have with zeros, which I kind of ran out of space. So I'm just going to go ahead and add. All right. So 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. 9 plus 6 is 15. So I have 5. I'm going to carry that 1. 1 plus 2 is 3. And then 0 plus 1 is 1. So it's going to be 13,500. So I'm going to write 100x equals 13,500. And now in order to isolate the variable, just like we've been doing, we're going to divide both sides by 100. So I'm going to show you a little trick here. And it only works when your numbers end in zeros. All right. So both numbers, like what I have up top and what I'm dividing by, both end in 0. So I can use this, and however many zeros I'm dividing by on the bottom, I can cross out up top. So I have a 0 down below, so I'm going to cross one out up above. And then I'm just going to keep going back and forth until I run out of zeros. So in this case, my new division problem is just going to be 135 over 1, which anything divided by 1 is still that same number. So what that tells me is that our final answer is x equals 135. Okay, we're going to do one more problem, and then we're going to move on to the word problems. So I want to do this one. So it's the third example. So we're going to skip the middle one. It says 60% of what number is 75? So just like I had mentioned up above, percents, like whatever percent you have is going to go in the top right. So that's just good information. So then it says of what number. So the what part is the unknown, so that's going to be our x, and then is 75. So we wrote is over of earlier. So I just want you to keep a mental note of that, is over of, or just refer to your paper and just pay attention. So is what goes on top. It is the part. So it's 75 over what number? We don't know. So that's x equals, so we have 60, which is our percent, and then percent is always out of 100. So now we're going to go ahead and cross multiply. So we have 60 times x, which is 60x. And then we have 75 times 100, which is just 7,500. And now we're going to divide both sides by 60. And both these numbers end in 0. So I'm going to go ahead, this becomes my 0 pair. I'm going to cross a 0 out there and a 0 out there. So now I'm just left with 750 divided by 6. And I can still divide, and I would still get the same answer if I did 7,500 divided by 60 versus 750 divided by 6. It's just powers of 10, and all I did was I divided both these numbers by 10 first. Okay, so I'm going to set up for long division here. So I'm going to put 750 in the house and then 6 on the outside. Okay, so I'm just going to do this one digit at a time. So if I look, 6 is smaller than 7, so it goes in one time. I'm going to subtract 6 for a remainder of 1. I'm going to bring down that 5, and now it's 15. And if I skip count my 6's, it only goes in 2 times, because if I do 3, that's 18, and that's too big. So I'm going to subtract 12 for a remainder of 3. And then I'm going to bring down that 0. And I'm going to think to myself, 6 times what is 30? So 6 times 5 is 30. I'm going to subtract 30 with the remainder of 0. So what that means, x equals 125. Okay, so I actually paused the video and I skipped down to number 5 on the word problem. So go ahead and take a look at number 5 with me. It says, Nick received an 82.5% on his math test. How many questions did he get right if there were a total of 40? So there's some important information here, and if you guys remember, I love using the CUBE acronym or CUBE system. So the C stands for circle the numbers. So we have 82.5 and we have 40. Now we know that there's supposed to be 4 numbers in total, and one of them is usually what we're solving for. So in this case, we only have 2. So since this is a percent proportion, that third number that we're going to use is 100. So just keep that in mind when you're doing percent proportions. Okay, and then it's just saying how many questions did he get right if there were a total. So total is kind of one of those mathy terms that we like to look at, of 40. So let's go ahead and set this up. So remember, it's part over whole equals percent over 100. So I'm going to apply that formula and plug in those numbers. So I'm going to put a fraction bar and then an equal sign and then a fraction. And I'm just going to plug in what I know. So I know that he received an 82.5%. So I have 82.5, which goes on the top here. And then that's going to be over 100 because percent is always out of 100. Now, on the left side is where I'm kind of stuck on. So what I'm going to think to myself is, I know there's a mathy term that I just boxed and it says total. Well, total represents a whole. So 40 goes on the bottom and then X would go on the top. And that makes sense because it's asking how many questions did he get right if there were a total of 40. And he only got an 82.5%. So that means he didn't get all of them correct. So now I'm just going to go ahead and cross multiply. And then I'm going to divide. So 100 times x is pretty easy. That's just going to be 100x. But then I need to do 82.5 times 40. And I'm going to use the space off to the side here. So I'm going to write 82.5 times 40. And now I'm just going to go ahead and start multiplying like normal. So I have 0 times 5, which is 0. 0 times 2, which is 0. 0 times 8, 0. Okay, moving on to the next digit, I have to add a 0. 4 times 5 is 20, so I have 0. Carry the 2. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 makes it 10, so 0. Carry the 1. And then 4 times 8 is 32, plus 1, makes it 33. And then I'm going to fill in my empty spaces with zeros. Add like normal, so I have 0, 0, 0, 3, 3. Now I'm going to go back. Do I have any decimals? Yes, I have 1, and then I have 0, which gives me a total of 1. So I just need to move my decimal 1 time over. So that looks like to me it's going to be 3,300. So I have 100x equals 3,300. And now I'm going to divide both sides by 100. And just like I said earlier, this only works if you have numbers that end in 0. So I'm going to cross one out down below. So I'm going to go up top and cross one out. And it looks like I have another pair of zeros. It's kind of like doing a 0 pair. Think about it that way. Or not like a 0 pair, but like if there's, like you pair the zeros together. Two totally completely different concepts, but that's just the way I say it in my head. Anyways, so now this problem is 33 over 1. And then that means x equals 33. So he got 33 out of 40 questions correct. Okay, and then let's take a look at number 6. So number 6, it says a department store is having a sale of 20% off all kitchen appliances. What is the sale price for a $250 microwave? Okay, so first off, let's go ahead and circle those numbers. So we have the key numbers. So we have 250 and 20%. Now we need three numbers in order to make this a percent proportion. Knowing that, the third number is going to be 100. Because using this formula, which I can just apply it from up above, I have part over whole, which equals percent over 100. So I'm going to use that down below. So I'm just going to write my fraction bar equals, oh, you know what, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Let's try that again. Fraction bar equals, and then fraction bar. So I'm going to start plugging in what I know. I know that I have 20 on the right side because percent is top right. 100 is down below because percent is always out of 100. And then it's asking for the sale price for a $250 microwave. Now I need to decide, is that $250, is that a part or a whole? Well, in this case, it's going to be a whole because that is the total amount before the sale. So I want to know what 20% of 250 is. So kind of going back up to that example 1 and example 3 that we did, that's what like the of and is comes from. So now I'm just going to cross multiply. So I get 100x equals, and then 250 times 200 gives me 5,000. Oops, I forgot my x. There we go. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 100. And then these numbers also end in 0, so I can just kind of cross out some zeros. So 1 below, 1 above, 1 below, 1 above. So it is 50 over 1, which is just 50. So that means x equals 50. But that doesn't quite answer the question. So the question is saying, what is the sale price for a $250 microwave? And if we look, it's saying the store is having a 20% off. You see that word right there, off? So that means we have to literally take off our answer. So our answer is 50, but the original price is 250. So you would have to do just 250 minus 50, and you get 200. So going back, it's asking what is the sale price? Well, the sale price is $200. Great job doing your work on percent proportion problems.